My best friend sleeps with married women, but last week he crossed the line. My best friend, let's call him Chaz, has a thing for married older women. And over the years, he has had surprising success in that area. It all started when he was 18 and he slept with a 30-year-old married woman who also had a kid. They were both waiters at a restaurant, and after months of flirting, she finally slept with him. In the 7 years since then, there's been 12 more. They've all been either married, engaged, and they all range between the ages of 30 and 52. In the beginning, I thought the whole thing was funny, but as the years have gone on, I'm honestly really disgusted by his behavior. If we're at a bar and he sees a bachelorette party, he's already hitting on the bride-to-be. He's even coaching his nephew's Little League team just to meet the moms. He even had to leave 3 different jobs because he was sleeping with married coworkers. The husbands would find out, leading to confrontations while he was on the job. But the last straw for me was last week. I recently got engaged and my fiance's family threw us an engagement party. It wasn't a surprise engagement party, so my fiance and I got to invite who we wanted. One of the people I wanted there was my former manager at work. Let's call him Tom. I'm a CPA at work, and Tom was one of my mentors there when I first started. He eventually left to work in industry, but we still stayed in touch after he left and are still very close. Tom is 40 and he's the nicest guy you'll ever meet. So he and his wife, 38 female, came to our engagement party. I had never met his wife before, and she's beautiful, by the way. At one point during the party, I see Chaz talking to Tom's wife while Tom took a phone call. So I immediately went over and interrupted the conversation. I pulled Chaz aside and told him to not even think about it. Chaz says he wasn't, but I immediately called BS. But I thought he took my warning seriously. Well, I was wrong. A few weeks later, Tom called me and told me that his wife had been acting strange since the engagement party. That he went through her phone and saw text messages to another guy. The text included explicit photos shared on both sides, and it was very obvious that they had met up for intercourse. Tom had confronted his wife the night before, and she admitted that it was my friend she was sleeping with. Tom was devastated and he was crying on the phone call. Tom wasn't even angry. He just wanted to know why his wife did it and asked if I could talk to my friend and get some more details. I called Chaz right after I got off the phone with Tom and exploded on him. I basically ended our 20-year friendship. It's been a week and Chaz hasn't stopped apologizing. And other than his despicable behavior with married women, he's been a good friend to me. We've been like brothers since kindergarten, and it hurts to feel like I'm throwing away someone who has been such a big part of my life. But I just can't be party to this anymore. I'm making the right decision, right? Bye.
I got back at my cheating boyfriend by flirting with my dad. Story time. So me and Steve had been dating for a few months before I started to suspect that he was cheating on me. He'd very often hide his phone and be unavailable at the most random times. Then when I'd asked him where he'd been, he would have no explanation for me. So one night when he was staying at mine, I looked over when we were in bed. He's texting on his phone and I'm like, who is he talking to? And I see him talking to a girl on Facebook Messenger. First of all, who uses Facebook Messenger anymore? Now, I knew that Steve was in a Facebook group chat, like a group for bikers, because he was big into biking, you know. And I was like, great, this is the perfect place to get revenge. So I was going all in, lads. I created a fake profile picture using AI and I requested to join the group. I'm in. I was trigger happy. I was going mad sending friend requests to every single person in this group. Now, as soon as Steve accepts my friend request, I know it's game time. Less than a week after he accepted my friend request, he messages me. His opening line was, I have never seen a more beautiful biker in my life. He immediately asked if he could meet up with me. My guy moves quick. So I thought, you know what, I'll just see how far he goes. I told him that I did actually have a boyfriend, and he instantly replied and was like, oh, don't worry, I also have a girlfriend, but nobody needs to know. And after that, it got very explicit very quick. I was in the mood for evidence because I knew the little rat would try and deny it. Now, Whilst all this is going on, another guy called Dave messages me. He was one of the people that I'd sent a little friend request to, but he didn't have a profile picture. His page was also on private as well. He was very polite. He started asking about how I'd been. And I thought, well, what have I got to lose? So I was like, listen, Dave, I've recently just found out my boyfriend's cheating on me, so I'm not doing that well. Oh, he was so lovely in his response. He was encouraging me to leave him, building me up. This chat with Dave actually really helped. The next morning, I confronted Steve with all of my evidence. Of course, he tries to put the blame on me. A massive argument, and he blocked me on everything. So me and Dave got a really good rapport going actually. We really trusted each other at this point, so I decided to speak to him about it. And he was so patient and attentive and calm. He texted me every single morning telling me to have a good day. And as the conversations went on, time progressed, we started to get a little bit more flirty. We were adding spice to the conversation. One day, Dave was like, listen, we've been chatting for a while. I would really like to meet up with you. So we arranged to meet up in a cafe at the weekend. Fast forwards, I'm at the date. I'm ready. I'm looking good. I text Dave and let him know what table I was at the cafe. So I'm sitting there feeling all cute or whatever. And I see a very familiar motorbike pull up. So Dave walks into the cafe with his helmet on. He walks straight over to my table. And when he took his helmet off, standing in front of me was my dad. And the only thing he said to me before walking away was, please don't tell your mom.
My mother abused me my whole life and is now suing me to see my children. I'm fed up. I'm a 41-year-old happily married father of 5. My wife and I have been married for 20 years and both of us come from a fractured, chaotic family. My wife's parents divorced and were both alcoholics. Her father passed of liver failure and her mother has cooled off a bit and has retired. My parents went through a vicious, violent divorce when I was a child. My father moved 10 states away to get away from the craziness, and my mother has never changed. Because of our experiences with violent and unstable families, my wife and I have worked extremely hard to be picture-perfect parents and spouses. We've done everything you can think of to have a perfect life for our kids. My wife is a sports coach, and I'm a scoutmaster with the BSA. Our kids are healthy, engaged, and have everything they need physically and emotionally. This has been in spite of our families, not because of them. My mother is a terrible woman. She systematically abused me throughout my whole childhood and continued to be a violent, bitter, mean, and aggressive person to me throughout my whole life. I could sit here for hours and write about the things that she's done. She used the courts to destroy the life of my father for decades. Once he was out of the house, she turned her anger at me with physical and emotional violence. When I was 16, she expelled me from the house and left me homeless. I had to go from house to house figuring out where to live and try to graduate high school. I ended up living with an older boy that was about 4 years older than me, and I had to engage in a sexual relationship with him in order to secure that housing. I was not gay. I didn't want to be gay, and I had to endure something that destroyed me in order to not to be sleeping on the street. When I turned 18, I was able to start working at a better job and was able to get out of that bad situation and start my life from scratch. I'm so proud of you. I am so proud of you. Despite what you've been through, you have worked extremely hard to be better than the parents that you were dealt. You have worked extremely hard to make sure your kids never have to suffer through any of the nasties and terrors in the world that more than a few of us have had to deal with. I am so fucking proud of you. My wife and I have scratched and clawed our way into a stable middle-class lifestyle. We both went to college at night for years and years, and we have good jobs and a house in the suburbs. Out of a sense of duty to our family, I sought to include my extended family in our lives, and I permitted a relationship with strict boundaries between my mother and my children. For the most part, she's been fairly stable for about 20 years. I say stable in that we could have a routine contact about once a month for that time period with minimum disruptive behavior. She's never acknowledged her abuse towards me, and she's an extremely selfish person. Everything about our past has been left unsaid. Those are the types of skeletons I refuse to leave in the closet. I refuse. You will never be able to speak to me unless you are ready to acknowledge your past behavior so we can talk about it and move on. I refuse to allow somebody to mistreat me and think that it's going to be okay. I commend you, though, because that takes a lot of strength and bravery to do that. My mother over the last 2 years has become completely unraveled. Her second husband decided to leave her for his own health and sanity, and she's instantly reverted back to the most cruel and most bizarre behavior imaginable. All aspects of her life have been affected. She's calling the cops, suing him in family court, alienating large parts of her family from one another, all while trying to tell my children about why their grandfather is a bastard for how she feels about him. Once I saw this happening, I said, that's it. Not again, and I took some action. Good shit. Good shit. At the beginning of this year, I wrote a very courteous note to my mother, asking her to reevaluate the way she's been behaving to me and my family. When I tell you it was neutral and courteous, I really mean it. I checked it like 5 times. She responded by calling me terrible names, an ungrateful piece of shit, for example, and screamed bloody murder on the phone at me. I blocked her from calling my phone. Then she did the same thing to my wife, so I informed my mother by email that I'd like to maintain distance until she works on herself, in therapy or with her divorce mediator. Things lay still for about 6 months. This morning, I woke up to a series of bizarre emails from my mother, asserting that she wants to see my children for their birthday, which is coming soon, and that she's giving me 24 hours, to provide acceptable dates for permitting visitation or be prepared for legal summons to family court. Bitch, you are insane. You know what? Take me to court. Go ahead. Take me to court. That's the response she would have gotten to me. That's fine. I'm not giving you anything. Take me to court. So the judge can laugh you out the fucking room. Take me to court. This woman is the equivalent of a schoolyard bully, following me around in life, tormenting me nonstop until you just want to cry. The worst part of a bully is that when you ask them to lay off for you even 5 minutes, that they just take this as a cue to keep it up even more. I took one look at this and I was like, holy shit, this woman is clearly out of her fucking mind. Now I know this post title said that she's suing me. I work in the legal field and I know that until I've been summoned to appear, that I haven't been sued. So no, she's only threatening to sue me right now. Sorry for using my hyperbole. But I'm finding myself in the same bizarre, out-of-touch reality that everyone in this person's life finds themselves. This batshit insane woman forced me to see my own father at a McDonald's when I was a kid for 2 hours every 2 weeks. This was per a court order. She waited outside in a running car. I was only allowed to see him in this fashion because she hated him, and she didn't care what this would do to her own kid. There were more than a few times when the clock would strike 8, and she would come screaming into the McDonald's, threatening to call the cops and have my dad arrested for kidnapping, while grabbing us by the arms and pulling us out of the store. This is what she's capable of doing with family court. I had a literal hyperventilating panic attack on the floor of my office this morning. I've sought to be respectful, mature, and use good decision-making this whole time. My wife and I have an extremely secure marriage, and she's in agreement with me 100% through all of this. I'm finding myself wishing that my mother would just die already and just please leave me alone. She's like this inescapable bully that will never, under any circumstances, leave a person alone until she's proven that she can hurt them. I don't even care what she's experienced in her life. I just need to be away from her. So that's my true off my chest story. I've been living with this shame and fear and lingering self-hatred for 30 plus years, all while trying to be super dad and a great career man. I called a local family law practice today to get a referral. I'm going to ask them to send a demand letter to her to try and get her to back the hell off. But look at what this has come to. I have to shell out money of my own pocket to protect myself and my kids from my insane mother. I feel like Rodney Dangerfield sometimes. Ironically, the money I'm going to have to send to the lawyer for their retainer is the money that I had earmarked for the kids to go to summer camp. So figure that one out. Thank you for letting me tell you my story. Just being able to type it out helps. I just want to let you know there is no need for you to carry around any type of shame or self-hatred from this, baby. You didn't do anything wrong. You did not do anything wrong. You did what you had to do to survive, and nobody is going to hold that against you, especially not me, not anybody in my community that I know. We're not going to hold that shit against you. You did nothing wrong. You are super dad. Look at what you're doing. You are spending money to protect your children, to protect your family from your crazy ass mama. That's some super dad shit right there. You deserve all the awards and the plaques and the stars and the glitters and the diamonds. You're doing that shit. I applaud you. I tip my hat to you, sir. I bow. I am so proud of you. Do not allow the things that your mother has done to make you feel any type of shame. Do not feel any type of shame for the things you had to do to secure housing over your head. Do not feel ashamed. Don't do it. You're not alone, baby. I promise you that you're not. You're not alone with having to go through this. Do not be ashamed for having to survive.
Am I the asshole for wanting my partner to use the bathroom? This is the stupidest debate we have ever had by far. My partner went out our front door to smoke a cigarette a couple evenings ago and requested I come outside as well. Our home, which we rent, is half of a double shotgun that sits maybe 10 feet or just over 3 meters to our neighbor on one side, and our porch is less than 50 feet or 15 meters from the neighbor across the street. I think they're describing like a really tight-knit little neighborhood.
Almost a townhouse.
It feels brownstone-y townhouse together vibes. He proceeds to go around the corner of our house and pee outside, right within the gate that is right up to our neighbor's house and right behind our front porch, within a 6-foot privacy fence, so no visibility to anyone, but it was still quite obvious what he was doing. It was maybe 7 p.m., so dark outside, but not late. The gate was shut, private yard. No one was going to walk in. I don't care. It still is unnecessary. My opinion is that it's kind of gross. The bathroom is inside, maybe 15 feet away. There's no plumbing issues. We aren't having issues with our water bill. It's clean. That's where adults go when they have to pee. I find it embarrassing if anyone were to hear or see that an adult man chose to urinate in the side yard, private or not, rather than go to the bathroom. He says men just do that. It's normal. Why go inside if you can just pee right there? No one can see anything. He says I'm being ridiculous. Okay, if you're drunk and it's 2 a.m. and you are taking the dogs out and it's a fenced backyard, I have no issues with it. Still seems silly when indoor plumbing exists, but whatever. Sometimes it's nice to not blind yourself by the bathroom lights in the middle of the night, but to just make a habit out of urinating outside is a bridge too far for me. We live in a major city with close neighbors, and while water issues are not uncommon, we don't have any. This is the stupidest, most petty debate. He says it's normal. I say it's fucking weird and gross. Hey, maybe we're both right, but am I the asshole?
No,
I don't think so either.
Go pee inside. Like, I don't know. That was an issue I had when I was a child. Like, I would just pee where I was.
Yeah.
One time I peed in my mom's closet.
I peed behind a couch once.
Yeah, sometimes you just don't want to make it to the bathroom.
Why do we do that?
As a child, like, we don't have to have the answer. As an adult, I think it's like, just go to the bathroom. Especially if you're just on your front porch. It almost feels like you're maybe walking the same distance down to this little alleyway.
I would agree.
As you would to just go inside and go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
Maybe it's like a straight man thing where it's just like, I want to pee wherever.
The macho, outdoorsy.
Right. It's like, I'm marking my territory. This is your home.
Yeah.
It's already your home. You don't have to mark any more territory. Go inside and pee.
Oh my God.
Maybe. I don't know. Yeah, I don't think she's the asshole. Yes, it's a little like, from his perspective, I can understand who cares at the end of the day, but just go inside. If it's something that maybe means something to your wife and doesn't mean that much to you, go inside.
Yeah, well, and it's like, you might have a privacy fence, but if your neighbor has 2 levels, all they have to do is look out their window and like get a top view and see you peeing.
Yeah. What's crazy is there's a room for this. There's a room in our house that we created specifically for this.
It even has like the specific name.
Yes, and it's the best. It's like we've created it to be the best experience. And then you get to wash your hands right after.
Oh my
That's
God.
the other thing, actually.
Yeah, because
when
you
he's
do
peeing
touch.
outside, he's not washing his hands, and he's smoking the cigarette. So like his hands are going from cigarette to dick to cigarette.
When you put it that way,
Yeah, come on.
absolutely
That's
disgusting.
That's different. That's
and
different.
no one brought that up.
No one brought that up.
No one brought that up.
Let's be real. This man is not rushing inside to wash his hands.
No one mentions this.
And cigarette hands are strong, and when they touch other things, the other things start smelling like cigarettes as well.
I would not want to give a blowjob later.
No, I wouldn't.
I don't smoke. Like, I would not like that flavor.
God, down there, you're basically sucking on a cigarette.
Secondhand cigarette dick. That's nope.
That's not what I want.
Disgusting. No.
No.
Wash your fucking hands.
Yeah, so just go to the bathroom, sir.
Realtor showed my house today, and they went through my things. A realtor, not mine, schedules a showing this morning of my 1,100 square foot house. We currently live in the house while we sell. We are 90% packed, all of which is boxed and stored in the spare bedroom. We still have clothes in our dressers, toiletries in the bathroom, and kitchen necessities in the kitchen drawers and cabinets. I also have my office and photo studio, though mostly packed. What I need to continue working is unpacked. When we have showings, we leave 15 minutes beforehand, and we're told to return 30 minutes after the scheduled time. We live rurally and utilize our neighbor's heavily bush-lined driveway to sit, watch, and wait. Today, the realtor who showed our house got there 15 minutes early, just as we had left. He pulled out a scanner of sorts and appeared to be scanning for something. Then he went inside and literally jumped around from room to room. His client, a female, showed up on time. They went inside the house. They were inside the house for an hour. What is there to do inside an 1,100 square foot house for an hour? We could see shadows and silhouette through the windows. They spent 20 minutes in our bedroom and almost 30 minutes in our office/studio. The rest just walking through the living room, dining room, kitchen, and laundry room, then left. We came back and my dresser drawers and bathroom drawers had been left open and gone through. My desk drawers had been left open, cabinets on our bookshelves as well. Our packed boxes had been moved around, a few opened. Refrigerator had been open and food moved around. They had even been on our bed. I can understand opening cabinet doors and dressers on a built-in to make sure it works, but my dresser, my desk, my bed, my refrigerator, why did they have to touch my computer? Why did they have to look in my dressers? Why pick up the cameras in my studio? Why look into and move my packed and labeled boxes? Why touch my damn food? Is this normal? Is this what I'm to expect and have to deal with to sell my house? Do I mention it to my realtor?
Am I wrong for telling my sister she's no longer the it girl? So I'm 25 and I have an older sister who's 30. We come from a small town where everyone knows everyone. When we were younger, she was the it girl of our town. She was really pretty, social, and well liked by everyone in general. I, however, was the complete opposite. I looked like Dobby from Harry Potter. I was extremely skinny, I had crooked teeth, I had frizzy hair and a huge nose. Really grotesque to look at in general. And whenever people saw us together, they were really surprised. They would often ask us if we had the same dad or not. On top of that, I always felt like she was ashamed of me. She never wanted to take me anywhere, or she wouldn't like being seen with me. She even told me it's because people ask her questions about me. And the thing that really annoyed me is when her friends would make fun of me. They would often call me the little goblin, and my sister never stuck up for me. Anyways, since I knew from a young age people wouldn't like me for my looks, I worked really hard on my grades. I went to a good university and then I worked on my looks. I gained weight, I got on a good hair care routine, got a nose job, and I also got braces. And now I look like a 7 out of 10. My sister, on the other hand, well, her life didn't go as great. She went to university, dropped out, got married, got divorced, moved back home and worked at a market. She also gained a lot of weight because of the stress. This summer, she called me and asked whether she could stay with my fiance and I. She told me she cannot live with our mom anymore and there's nothing to do in the small town. I agreed and she started living with us. The issue is she talks about her past whenever she gets the chance. She says how much I changed myself and tells everyone my looks weren't always so great. The other day we were out with my friends and she did it again. But she also showed the most unflattering childhood photo of me and people started laughing. I don't know what happened, but I started seeing red. I told her she also looks really different now. Like 40 pounds heavier different. I told her she's no longer the it girl, so she should stop acting like it. She's the girl who lives at her sister's house rent-free and tries to embarrass her. We're currently not talking. So was I wrong? Bye.
Am I wrong for being upset that I caught him saying he was single? I have been with my partner John for 4 years, engaged for 1. We have our usual ups and downs. However, recently it has felt more down than up. I was trying to get us booked for a getaway for our combined 30th this year. My app wasn't working on my phone. I asked to use his, which he seemed somewhat guarded over. However, he agreed and handed me his phone. I sent the website via WhatsApp to him so I could access it faster. And when I clicked on WhatsApp, it took me straight to a conversation between him and another woman whom he hadn't even saved as her name. She was just named Pizza. In this conversation, she asked him if he was single, and he said yes. She then went on to talk about herself being single, and he stated, quote, being single has its perks. He then asked her to send him a picture of herself, as he wanted to know what she looked like. She did so, and he called her attractive. Now, I admit I freaked out. He said he only said it as she had bad mental health and depression, and he didn't want to upset her by boasting that he was in a relationship. I was so mad. I texted her on his phone saying that he was engaged, and sorry that he lied to her like that. I admit I shouldn't have done that. He doesn't see any fault in what he has done. He says it's a non-issue and it doesn't matter. He then turned everything on me and said how bad of a partner I am and that now he doesn't even know if he wants to be with me. I don't know what to do. I feel so confused and upset and I don't know if I messed up somehow. I try to be a good partner. I am not perfect by far, but I'm in therapy and I do my best every day. I could be better, but no one can be perfect straight away. I'm sorry, but I feel like this is kind of obvious what's going on here. He saved this girl's name in his phone as Pizza. He's having a conversation where he's telling her that he is single. This person is completely checked out of his current relationship. And honestly, OP, leave. I really hope that the OP sees the situation for what it is and does what's best for her. The top comment on this post is, "You're only wrong if you believe his lies and stay with him."
Secretly dating my dead brother's best friend, part 2. A quick little recap for anybody who doesn't remember. So I was dating my brother's best friend, like right after he passed away. It was the first time we got together, hooked up, whatever, and we had a very on again, off again situationship. Very much like he didn't want me to be with anybody else, but I did find out that he had been hooking up with girls when he had gone off to college. There was a lot of back and forth toxicness going on. Also, during all of this, my friends just did not think this was the best idea for me, and they were pushing me to see this guy who was in our grade and who was very cute, very popular, whatever. But things between him and I didn't work out, especially after my best friend who was pushing me onto him ended up getting with him. In hindsight, I can definitely see that she just wasn't a real friend. I found out she was calling the guy, my brother's best friend, behind my back while he was at college and trying to talk to him, trying to hook up with him. That came out way later and it was just a whole shit show. Remember, I also talked about how my parents, after my brother passed away, just checked out. They never wanted to be around me. They couldn't stand to be with me. They were constantly going on vacation or doing stuff. And actually, summer of my senior year, they just left me to live at the house alone. I was in that house most of senior year alone. They were never around. And after I graduated, they just checked out and I hardly talked to them at all. They didn't know where I was going to college. They didn't even know how I was paying for college. They didn't know anything. And they just basically didn't want to talk to me, but they did like to talk to my brother's best friend a lot. And this also played a big role into why I kind of ended things, because he didn't know how I was being treated at home, and I honestly didn't know whose side he was going to take, because my parents had always been a second set of parents to him, and so I ended up going to the same college as him after I graduated high school. When I get to the college, one of the first people I talk to is one of his now best friends, his new college friends, and he's I'm gonna let him know that you're here. He gets us in contact with each other. We finally reconnect. We hash a little bit of things out. Still not telling him about my parents, and I find out that he has a big group of friends here that also includes a lot of girls. One girl in particular who I can tell he is really close with, and I think this is also one of the girls that he was hooking up with when we were in the situationship type thing that we were in. At this point, I am not ready to enter into a public relationship with him. I just don't really want anybody to know, but all of our the new friends that I'm making and his friends that he has are all kind of interconnected, so there's a lot of instances where we're around each other and he wants everybody to know, and I was kind of scared in the past who really wanted it to be a secret, so I just didn't really know how to move forward for this, and that caused a lot of drama and fights between the two of us. Going really well between us, and then he told me that my parents were coming to visit, And I was like, okay, things are about to get like really, really interesting. There's a big blow up fight between me and my parents, and he finally like finds out the things that they've been doing to me, how they've been treating me. But there's this like big undertone, and like they're like talking in code almost. And there's obviously something that I don't know about my brother that they are like talking about. And I'm like, I want to know what's going on. And he tells me that he cannot tell me. And I'm like, okay, well, that is an ultimatum for me. Like, if you're not going to tell me what was going on with my brother, then I can't be with you, and I can't trust you. I had been living with him, so I ended up leaving and not living with him anymore, and we basically, like, broke up. And for the life of me, I couldn't figure out, like, what this big secret was, and when I found out, oh my gosh, it changed everything.
Am I wrong for being mad that my boyfriend's going on a bachelorette party with all females? Let's just start the story off by saying that my boyfriend has a girl best friend, and she recently asked him to be in her wedding as the man of honor. She also has a maid of honor. Let me add to this that one of my best friends is also a male. Both of us are okay with having friends of the opposite sex. The thing is, I don't text my male friend every single day and keep up with him daily. We check in on occasion, hang out on occasion, and I typically always invite my boyfriend to these hangouts. And the difference is that my boyfriend is always going out to drinks with his female friend, but never, ever, ever extending me the invite. Now he's invited on a bachelorette trip, a weekend getaway in a house full of females and drinking. Not to mention, I've never ever had romantic feelings for my male best friend. Yet he has admitted to having romantic feelings for his female best friend in the past. He just brushes it off and acts like I'm overreacting. I'm pretty positive that if I was going on a bachelor trip with all males, he definitely would not be okay with that. Am I just being insecure, or would you not be okay with this either? And by all means, I appreciate both takes. Just let me know.
Story time about why I hate Valentine's Day. So a little background information. I was 22 years old and I had been dating this guy for almost a year. And we're gonna call him Jimmy. Most of Jimmy and I's relationship had been long distance because literally after 2 months of us dating, he was offered a job in a different state. And I never worried about him cheating on me or anything like that because he seemed like a really honest and genuine guy. But of course I was wrong because he said that he couldn't do anything for Valentine's Day because he had to work. So me, I'm sitting there and I'm like, oh, well, I'm just gonna fly to him, so we can spend Valentine's Day together. And it'll be a nice surprise. So a few days before Valentine's Day, I get my plane ticket and I wanted to do something special. So I wore some nice lingerie under a trench coat. Well, fast forward, my plane lands and I get an Uber to his apartment. And when I knock on his door, I hear a woman's voice from inside saying, don't worry, I'll get the door. Like for part 2. Part 2 about why I hate Valentine's Day. So like I said, I Uber to his apartment and I knock on the door and I hear some woman from inside say, don't worry, babe, I'll get it. So I hurry up and try to tie my coat because I had untied it thinking that my boyfriend was going to open the door. But no, why would my boyfriend open his own door to his own apartment that he lives alone in? So she opens the door and she's like, hi, what can I help you with? And I'm like, oh, is this apartment blah, blah, blah? And she's like, yeah. And I'm like, oh, well, is Jimmy here? And she was like, yeah. So she calls Jimmy over to the door. I look directly at him and I'm like, oh, is this like your friend or something? And she's like, excuse me, I'm his fiance. So I'm looking at him all confused and I start screaming that he's a liar, a cheater. He's like, babe, go call the police. I have no idea who this woman is. She sounds crazy. So his fiance walks away and he goes, I'm sorry, I'll call you later. And then security escorts me off the property. Needless to say, I never talked to him ever again.
So in one of my videos, I started it off by saying that girls can be FBI agents, like we can just find anyone. And a bunch of guys were in my comment section being like, guys can do that too. Women aren't special, like, and whatever, the usual. And I didn't really pay it any mind, but then some guy was in my comment section and he was like, oh yeah, if you're so good, then you find something about me. And I was bored and I had free time. So I went on Instagram and looked up his same TikTok handle and found his account. And I just commented, you use the same profile picture on Instagram that you do TikTok. And he was like, do better, find something more personal. And then some girl comes in the comment section and reads this man to filth. She's like, your name is Zach. You grew up in Michigan. You went to NSS high school. You're best friends with Chelsea. She's married to Donovan and they have a kid together. You like Eminem and Tupac. All that from a private account. He asked and she said, I can do it, but it's gonna cost you everything.
Am I wrong for dropping out of my friend's wedding party after a prank? Depends how severe the prank was. My female 26 cousin, female 29, got engaged a few months ago and asked me to be a bridesmaid. I was so excited to accept. His sister, 32 female, is the maid of honor, and there are 3 other bridesmaids. The date is set for April 2024. On April 1st of this year, she sent a PDF to the bridesmaid group chat that really made me angry. It was a list of wedding party responsibilities, rules, and regulations. It included a picture of the bridesmaid dresses that we'd be wearing. They were hideous. And she told us that we have to pay $800 for them and that they only went up to a size 8, so anyone bigger than that would need to lose weight before the wedding. That made me so angry because I wear a size 10, but also she's like a size 12 herself, so even fatter than me. Other ridiculous things she added. None of us were allowed to be tanner than her for the wedding, so she told us that none of us could spend significant time in the sun for the next year. She wanted to have longer hair than all of her bridesmaids, so she said that we'd all have to cut our hair to our shoulders or shorter. She wanted to do a choreographed dance with all of us and insisted that we go to a 3-hour dance classes with her every Sunday until the wedding, a year away. She said that she wanted her bachelorette party to be in Paris and that we would all need to chip in $3,000. There was more, but I was so angry I stopped reading and muted the group chat for a few hours. I was so livid and hurt that I decided to drop out of the wedding party, but I didn't say anything right away. The next day, I checked the group chat again, and everyone else had been chatting about how funny the bride's prank was. Apparently, at the bottom of the PDF, it said April Fools, but I hadn't read that far because I was so mad. Everyone else thought it was hilarious, but it still rubbed me the wrong way. I reached out to the bride to tell her how much this hurt my feelings, and she did apologize. But even though it's been almost 2 months, I'm still really angry. I can kind of tell. I decided this week that I no longer wanted to be a bridesmaid because of the mean-spirited prank and told my cousin. Now she's really hurt and angry, and the other maid of honor and other bridesmaids and some of my family members are blowing up my phone saying that I'm overreacting to an innocent prank. But I believe that pranks are only funny if the recipient finds them funny, and I definitely don't. So, am I the asshole? So she has a small little edit, okay? Okay, clearly, I've been deemed the asshole, and I'll accept that, but I also realized that I didn't explain my feelings very well. I was angry because all of the items in the list seemed to single me out. Expensive dress and bachelorette. I make the least money out of everyone in the wedding party, and it felt like a job. The sizing? Same thing. Only me and 2 other bridesmaids are bigger than a size 8. The hair? We all have long hair, but I have the longest hair out of anyone in the wedding party. The tanning? I work outdoors, so I'm probably the one most likely to be tanned. Everything I read on the list felt tailored to me. Oh my god, this sounds like more like self-esteem issues more than anything.
Last Sunday, we woke up and somebody was banging on the door. I went to open it and it was Julie. She looked furious and started yelling at me. She kept on accusing me of cheating on her. I told her I most certainly did not cheat on her, and she was the one that broke up with me. Mindy was also at my apartment. Julie was just angry at both of us. She started calling Mindy a manipulative and told me that Mindy was the one who suggested to her that she should take some time away from me to understand her true feelings. I calmed her down and asked her to explain herself. She told me that ever since our marriage talk, she told Mindy about it, and Mindy kept on asking Julie if she was sure about marrying me. Mindy suggested that she take some time to herself to understand her true feelings and that I will understand and give her space. When I said no, Mindy convinced her that I was so controlling that I could not even give her 1 month to herself and convinced her to break up with me. Mindy told me that she did not say any such things, and these were all Julie's ideas, and she was just there during the conversations. She did tell Julie that she told me about some of the things so that I could get a chance to make things right with her over the last few months. That made Julie more angry, and she started accusing me of emotionally cheating on her. Julie told me that the last few weeks had made her realize that we were meant to be together, but she now cannot believe I can move on from a 4-year relationship in a week. On one hand, I want to believe Julie, but she broke up with me for no fault of my own. Mindy was there for me when I was down, but now I also doubt her. She suddenly started talking to me out of the blue as we were never really close before, and immediately became my support after the breakup, although Julie was her close friend. Am I the asshole to emotionally cheat on Julie? Should I have told her about Mindy's text? Should I have not moved on with her so quickly even though Julie broke up with me? I was just hurting and Mindy was there to support me. I need advice from somebody with a clear mind on what the f*** is going on.
Stay with me while I tell you about the time my boyfriend left me to go talk to his ex for the whole night. Boyfriend hadn't been together that long and he really wanted me to go to this event with him, and there was gonna be all these people I didn't know, so I was like already right off the bat very nervous. I kind of get like anxiety and have some like anxiety issues when I'm around people I don't know, especially like in a big crowd. So we had been dating for a little while at this point and he like knew all these things about me, and I had like specifically had a conversation about this because when he first invited me I was like, oh no, like you can go without me, it's fine. He's like, no, I really want you to go. And I was like, okay. And I had to tell him, like, I feel really uncomfortable. Like, please don't leave me alone. I don't want to be left alone at this thing because I'm not going to know anybody. And, like, I'll just feel so awkward. And he had been, like, a very attentive, so nice. Like, literally the best boyfriend I had ever had. Like, I thought he was, like, the best guy in the entire world. So when he was like, okay, like, no problem, I won't leave you alone, I fully trusted him. Get there, and I have, like, a glass of champagne to drink because, again, I'm nervous. I'm, like, hoping it will kind of calm me down. And we're looking at everything, and we're talking. And we're actually having like a really good time. Obviously, I'm still a little nervous, but he was very true to his word, didn't leave my side. Things were going seemingly very well. He and I are talking, and all of a sudden I see him like, so he is facing me and I'm looking this way, and so all of a sudden I see him see something over my shoulder, and he like abruptly gets up and he like goes, he's like, I'll be right back, and he's like seems very distracted, and he like goes up to this woman, and I'm like, okay, maybe he knows this woman from work, like maybe this is somebody that he like needs to talk to tonight, I don't know, but they obviously know each other because they're like having this heated discussion back and forth, and she's like touching his arm, and I'm like, okay, I am going to stand here for 5 more minutes, and if he does not come back over here and explain himself to me right now, I'm leaving. It's not even like he like looked over at me to like reassure me, to make sure I was okay. He like literally forgot I was there, and he's just having this very heated discussion with this woman, and I sitting there looking like a big dumb Barney. And like 5 minutes go by, then 10 minutes. After 15 minutes, I was like, I'm done, I'm leaving. For that, I grabbed another glass of champagne because I didn't want to be like, I just needed something in my hand to like, I felt like I looked so dumb. Like, obviously I don't know anybody here, or like trying to look like I belong. I don't belong. I set the glass down, I'm like, I'm leaving. I get a cab. Way home, I like get in bed. Like hours have gone by at this point, and finally like there's knocking at my door. He had called me a few times, but like a long time had passed before he even realized that I was gone. Like, why would you just leave like that? I had no idea where you were. I was very worried about you, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, oh, you were worried about me? Because it didn't seem like you were worried about me when you just left me sitting there for 15 minutes talking to some woman who was touching all over you. Like, I understand. Can I just try to explain to you what happened? And I'm like, okay, let's hear it. Please explain to me why you left me for 15 minutes. To find out, this woman was his ex-fiance. They were engaged to be married. He was like, I thought we were gonna be together forever. Like, I really loved her, and she called it off. And after she called it off, I just found out a couple months ago that she was actually seeing some guy while she was with me. He was like, I just kind of found out about it, and I was really like upset about it still, and I wanted to like call her out on it and like try to understand why that happened. And I kind of understand like wanting closure, but I was just like, you shouldn't have left me like that. Like, that was very extremely rude. He's like, I know, I'm sorry. It's just like was an ego thing, and I really needed to know, like, it's been bothering me, but I swear, like, I love you, I want to be with you, blah, 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 blah. And he honestly seemed very sincere in what he's saying, and like I said, I do understand wanting closure. Like I said, he apologized profusely, so I did forgive him, and I mistakenly thought this was going to be the last time I was ever going to hear about his ex-fiance. But of course, that was not the last time. If you want to find out what happens next and the name of the book, check the caption. Bye!
Here is the update to the biological brother boyfriend story. To make a long story short, we never ended up getting a real DNA test at the doctor's because everyone said that the ancestry tests are pretty accurate. We just decided to believe it. We are still together, and we have been together ever since. We never broke up. I did not end up having to tell him the news because he already had the ancestry login, so he already saw the information and saw the news himself. It was a lot to get over, as I'm sure anyone can imagine. We had a lot to talk about and a lot to get through. It was really hard to look at him in that way for a really long time. We slept in separate places for a little while. I felt really weird around him for a little bit. We're 6 years in, and I still love him, and I've always loved him. My weirdness was different than what it is with my real brothers. I consider my adoptive family's sons to be my real brothers. If I were to date one of them, I would feel really weird because we grew up together. With my boyfriend, it was a different feeling because it was more of like, what are the odds And looking at him and seeing myself and seeing our parents was just so weird. It's such a weird feeling. We talked about it for a long while and we decided to just stay together. Neither of us want kids and no one else knows besides us, so who are we really hurting? I don't see him as my brother, I just see him as the man that I love, and we've been able to find some comedic relief through the whole situation. Just to set a few things straight, we met when we were 20. Now, ever since we found out, we have now been together for 7 years. I've never felt like I wanted time away from him. I always want to be around him. Even during the big discovery, I really missed sharing a bed with him during that time. I've never felt more at home or comfortable with a person in my life, and it has nothing to do with him being my brother.
Am I wrong for telling my sister-in-law I will disown her if she gets pregnant? I, 33 female, live with my brother, 32 male, and his new wife, 34 female. Things have been fine to a point, and I definitely appreciate them taking me in during my time of need. That is not lost on me. I recognize they did not have to help me, and I am incredibly thankful they have done that. But my sister-in-law has baby fever, and she is talking about trying to get pregnant. First of all, I know my brother had the snip after his divorce from his first wife. He would have to have the procedure reversed, and his insurance will not cover it. And to be frank, they cannot afford that. Part of why they allowed me to move in is because they are in financial trouble and I'm contributing quite a lot of money to bills right now. I cover probably 2/3 of all of the bills because my sister-in-law doesn't work and my brother pays an ungodly amount of child support to his ex-wife. The financial issues can go ahead and be another point in the situation. My sister-in-law can also barely take care of herself. She sleeps most of the day, does not clean, doesn't cook, and doesn't even take care of the child she already has. Her daughter is 6 years old and she doesn't even interact with her unless she has to. That is a totally separate issue. I have become a live-in maid and nanny on top of working 45 or more hours a week. My sister-in-law lost custody of her other child about 2 years ago. He is 11 and living with family. I do not know why she even lost custody, but he says he was abused. She did not fight to get him back. 2 days ago, my brother told me he has an appointment to meet with his doctor to discuss the reversal so him and sister-in-law can try for a baby. I told him they were out of their minds. It got explosive and I finally asked who was going to take care of a baby when my brother works full-time. I work full-time and she constantly makes excuses to not even do basic shit around the house like take the dog outside. She really had the nerve to tell me, I thought you could handle them when you get off work before my brother gets home so the load is evenly distributed. I blew up. I told her I am not going to be a parent to another one of her kids and that if they really do this, then I am totally done and they are on their own. I told my brother I would always love him and help him if he needs me, but that I would never talk to sister-in-law and make sure the rest of the family disowns her too. I think I was probably the asshole for saying it the way I did. She started crying and locked herself in the bedroom. My brother is threatening to kick me out again and I might be the asshole for this. I told him he can't afford to kick me out and he can't afford a replacement maid or nanny like I have been. I told her mom about what happened and she not only thinks that I'm not the asshole but is now mad at my brother. Our dad, however, said I am the asshole because it isn't my place to say anything about my brother's decisions. So, am I the asshole?
This is why you should always keep your head on a swivel. In 2017, an elderly woman who lived alone thought she saw something moving in her backyard and went to the window to have a look. As she's looking around, a shadowy figure emerges right on the other side of the glass, standing in her backyard. Terrified, she keeps an eye on the figure while calling police, but by the time she hangs up, the figure's gone. When the police arrive, her front door is unlocked, so they go inside and they find her still sitting in front of the window looking for this figure. The police search the backyard, but they don't find anything. When the police go back inside to search the house, they quickly find some large footprints that couldn't have been hers in the room that she was sitting in and all around the first floor. That's when they realized what was going on. She wasn't seeing a shadowy figure in her backyard. She was seeing the reflection of someone in the room with her.
Am I the asshole for telling my fiance my daughter has to be in our wedding? I, 45 male, have a daughter, Penny, from a previous relationship. I divorced my ex-wife on good terms and we share 50-50 custody of Penny. She is now 11. After I divorced my wife, I met my now fiance, Sharon. Sharon and my daughter got along very well. After 5 years in my relationship with Sharon, I proposed. Sharon was super excited and wanted to start planning right away. She looked at venues and started asking her friends to be her bridesmaids. She then told me she wanted her niece to be a flower girl, which I had no problem with, but I said I also wanted Penny to be a flower girl. Sharon looked at me funny and then said that she didn't think that Penny would, quote, fit the part. I got angry and told Sharon that my daughter would be in our wedding. Sharon started to become upset and said that the girls in the wedding were up to her and Penny wouldn't be one of them. I told Sharon that if Penny wasn't in the wedding, then there might not be a wedding. I stormed out and took Penny to get ice cream. Penny knows we are getting married and told me she thinks she will look pretty in whatever dress Sharon decides she would wear. This broke my heart and I decided to text Sharon. I told her I would be staying at a friend's to think this over. My mother-in-law texted me saying I was overreacting and that my daughter doesn't have to be in my wedding and that I was an ass for saying that I would cancel. So did I take it too far in saying that I will cancel? Am I overreacting or am I being a good dad?
Am I wrong for telling my best friend that her fiance tried to kiss me? The other day, I was at my best friend's place, and while I was there, my best friend got an urgent call from the school about her daughter, so she went in the other room to take the call. I was left alone in the living room, which is where things take a strange turn. Her fiance, who I've known well and have always been on really good terms with, came into the room and started chatting with me. Everything felt really normal at first, but then he sat uncomfortably close to me on the couch. Although I felt really uncomfortable, I decided to just brush it off. As we started talking some more, all of a sudden he leans in and tries to kiss me randomly. I was obviously extremely shocked because what would ever make him think that I would want to kiss him? I immediately stood up and I asked, "What the hell are you doing?" He literally didn't respond, like a freak, so I just grabbed my things and I left. I didn't say anything to my best friend. I just literally got out of there as fast as possible. About an hour later, my friend texted me because she was concerned. She came back and I wasn't there. And she asked me if everything was okay, and I said I'm fine. But if I'm being totally honest, I am far from being fine. After a while, I contemplated if I wanted to tell her or what I wanted to do. I just felt so weird about this. I mean, inside I really knew that I needed to tell her, but at the same time, I just didn't want her to think that I was lying, and I really didn't want it to ruin our friendship. So I couldn't sleep all night last night, and I decided this morning that I was just gonna tell her. I mean, she asked me 2 months ago to be her bridesmaid, and how could I continue being her bridesmaid? So after thinking all those things through, I decided I just needed to tell her. To be quite frank, it did not go well. She immediately accused me of lying and being jealous of her and her relationship. She said she's finally happy, and now I'm trying to ruin her relationship. She ended the conversation with, "I don't think that we can be friends anymore."
Am I the asshole for telling my husband if he fights for custody of his kids, I will divorce him? I am vehemently child-free. I am sterilized and I have no intention of having or caring for any child. I married my husband last year and did not know he had any children until 5 days ago. I travel for work, I work for myself, and I have an amazing pay for very few active hours working. I'm a honeymoon planner and I own my own business. We have a joint account for bills and we have our own separate accounts for savings and fund money. My husband sat me down 5 days ago and told me he hadn't been completely honest with me and revealed he has 2 children, 10 and 7. He pays regular child support. However, it dips into his fund money and he wants to be able to have fun like I am. So he said he would fight for 50-50 custody. I was furious he had lied to me and was even more angry when he told me he wanted 50-50 custody. He works 12 to 16 hour shifts as a nurse, and that would mean I would have to care for the children when I'm not working or I'm working from home. I told him if he fights for custody, I will leave him. We have a prenup, so divorce will be rather simple. I get 100% of my business, all of my savings and fund money, and the house as I inherited it from my grandmother. He called me an asshole and told me I should step up so that he can have more money in his savings and for fun, and because the kids won't be much of a hassle due to their ages. So, am I the asshole for telling him I will divorce him if he goes through with filing for custody?
Would I be the asshole if I insist she needs to tell her age when we meet new people?
Okay, what the fuck does this one mean?
Yeah,
How
a lot
old
of
is she?
open-ended things, yeah. My wife and I met
13. My wife, 13 female.
I wish it was that easy.
My wife, 89 female.
But don't worry, it's still easy.
My wife, 102 female.
And I, 7. Got access to my daddy's computer. My wife and I met 20 years ago when we were 22 and 25 respectively. Back then we looked the same age. But now at 45, I look like I'm in my mid-50s, while at 42, my wife looks like she's in her late 20s.
Okay.
We have lived in the same neighborhood since we got married, but we recently had to move and change our kids' school. So, nothing prepared me for how incredibly awkward it would be to enroll our kids in a new school and get to know our neighbors when I look like I'm in my 50s, My wife looks like she's in her late 20s, and our kids are both teenagers. It's one thing for people to assume I have a controversially young wife when it's just the two of us. I couldn't care less. But it's another when I have to introduce our children, because if they think my wife is around 28, it would make me seem like a creep who got an underage girl pregnant. I asked my wife if she could start mentioning her age when we introduce ourselves, but she said I'm being ridiculous and that it would be incredibly awkward for her to do so.
Yes.
I don't think it's ridiculous to want to avoid being labeled a creep. Would I be the asshole if I insist after she said no? You know, that's how you become a creep, is after she says no. It's like, come on, do it though.
Am I wrong for saying it's easy to be the perfect mom when you don't have kids to someone who's infertile? Oh, that is brutal. But I feel like you have a reason for saying it, hopefully. I, 28 female, have a 2-year-old son. My brother, Tommy, 25 male, has been dating Gianna, 22 female, for a few months now. She's a little judgmental, not of me particularly, but in general. She babysits for other children and constantly judges appearance. She said she'd never let her kids act the way the kids do. Sometimes it'll make sense, and I agree. Others, she claims that her future kids will never, ever throw a tantrum. They'll accept no the first time and the only time. I've told her good luck with that when it comes to toddlers. My son is learning no and has appropriate consequences for tantrums, but he's learning. It'll happen. It's also important to note that Gia is infertile. She can't have kids without medical intervention or adoption. Saturday night, we went out for my dad's birthday dinner. I messed up and didn't prepare my toddler well enough. He got overstimulated and began melting down. I quickly took him out of the restaurant to calm him down before he could cause a scene. It took all of 5 minutes and we returned. He got food and all was good. Gianna started on, my future kids will never act like that in a restaurant. I ignored her. The next day, myself, Tommy, our parents, my son, and Gianna went to the mall for an event they were having. My son was playing in a structure and I had my eyes on him. My mom asked me a question and I turned to answer her. When I turned back, he was gone. Panic set in and myself, my parents, and Tommy, along with some people nearby, began helping me look. It only took a few minutes to find him and he was perfectly fine. He had seen a pretzel cart and wandered off. I was still pretty worked up, holding on to him for dear life. He had never wandered off before. My mom was reassuring me, saying it happened to her with both of us kids. Then I hear Gianna, why weren't you watching him? I tried ignoring her. Then she said, I would have never let him wander off. I was already so worked up and upset, and I snapped. I said, it's easy being a perfect parent when you don't have kids. Come back to me when you do. Gianna got visibly upset. She then made Tommy take her home. Tommy and Gianna have both texted me, telling me how insensitive that is since she can't have kids. To me, she's talking about having kids all the time, so why is this different for me to say that? So, am I the asshole?
My husband is cheating on me with my best friend. My husband and I have been together since I was 19 and he was 22 years old. We've been married for 6 years now. We have 2 children and I'm currently pregnant with our third. So a little bit of backstory. About 2 years ago, I found out that my dad was diagnosed with colon cancer. My dad is my only parent. My mom passed away when I was 12 years old. He is literally my favorite human in the world and life without him just doesn't feel as colorful. About 5 months ago, we found out that his treatment stopped working. A direct quote from the doctor, he said months, not years. My husband has been my absolute rock through the whole thing. He's been so supportive and always there to hold my hand through everything. Once my dad got his updated prognosis, my husband encouraged me to quit my job. About a month ago, we found out that I was pregnant and I still hadn't quit my job. He assured me that it was fine if I quit my job and honestly that it would save us a small fortune, at least on daycare. So I finally ended up quitting my job. My best friend and I have literally been friends since we were in diapers. Her family is like my family and vice versa. If there were soulmates in friend form, she would definitely be mine. This morning I was up with my 3-year-old because he's sick and my husband's alarms were going off because he sets a few for work. So I turned his alarm off and gently woke him up and he said he took the morning off work because he was up late working. He rolled over and went right back to bed, and as I went on his phone to turn off the remainder of the clocks, I saw a text from my best friend on his phone that said, I'm assuming since I haven't seen a pregnant lady turn up angry at my door, you haven't told her about us yet. My husband is cheating on me with my best friend. Time froze in that moment and I immediately took his phone and started reading through all the conversations. 4 months, this man has been sleeping with my best friend. 4 months, they have been lying to my face. I know what everyone's gonna say, that I should have seen the warning signs, but I honestly didn't. He's been so attentive and so caring. Nothing has changed between us, and nothing has changed with the way that he acts towards me. And I was thinking about times that we've all three been together. There's been no lingering touches and not even an eye glance. They act the same as they have ever since the day they met. How sick is it that she calls him her brother, yet she's sleeping with him at the same time? I know what I have to do, I just really don't want to, and I'm not looking forward to it at all. I'm about to lose my whole family and my support system all in one go. Today I just want peace for the next 24 hours, and I'll confront him tomorrow. And as for her, I won't even give her the satisfaction of a response. I'm just never gonna talk to her again. I don't care why she did it. It's done. She did it. I've always been the friend to clean up the messes anyways. After today, I'll cut her out of my life like she never even mattered.